You want the best for your car? You already watch our tutorials.
So the best place for the best deal is to buy from the Mr. Auto app.
You will find the bulk shock absorbers used in the video exclusively on the Mr. Auto website and through the link in the description. Turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake. Pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. To disassemble the front shock absorbers, it is first important to remove the windscreen bay and the windscreen wipers. Before removing the windscreen wipers, place adhesive tape in order to keep a precise indication of their location at the end position. This will make it possible to correctly position them when reassembling. As the components to be removed are very often seized up, don't hesitate to brush and to use penetrating oil to facilitate the operation. Using a socket wrench, an extender, and a 16mm socket, loosen the wiper arm nuts. Remove the windscreen wiper arms by making small movements up and down. If they are not coming out, we recommend taking a windscreen wiper remove to facilitate the process. Remove the windscreen frame seal. Now remove the windshield frame. You can now see the tops of the shock absorbers in your car. Brush the nut holding the suspension strut support bearing, then spray it with penetrating oil. Using a socket wrench, a Torx T35 socket, and a 21mm spanner, unscrew the nut holding the suspension strut support bearing by a few threads. This will then enable you to loosen the shock absorber a little for the next movements. Loosen the stud bolts on the front wheels. Lift the front of the vehicle. Place the vehicle on the axle stands. We strongly suggest watching our tutorial, raising your C4 to safely, before carrying out this step. You must remove the wheels in order to change the front shock absorbers on your car. This will give you full access to the suspension system. Don't forget to slide the wheels under the vehicle. During this operation, you will work on the front end of your car. An alignment check carried out by a professional will ensure that your steering system is once again perfectly adjusted and functioning. You now have to remove the upper ball from the sway bar link. It connects the sway bar to the shock absorbers so that the wheels are always in contact with the ground. Remove the ABS sensor cable mounting bracket. As the components to be removed are very often seized up, don't hesitate to brush and to use penetrating oil to facilitate the operation. Start by loosening and removing the upper tie rod end on the sway bar link. To do this, take a 16mm spanner and a 5mm Allen key. Stop the rotation with the Allen key and remove the nut using the spanner. Remove the nut, then the sway bar link. Use the jack to take the tension off the shock absorber base screws so that you can unscrew them more easily. Using a wire brush, brush the threads of the shock absorber foot bolts and spray it with degreaser. Using a breaker bar and an 18mm socket, loosen the two screws on the shock absorber base. Then finish unscrewing using the socket wrench. Hold the nuts using an 18mm spanner. Remove the screws. You can use a small crowbar. Finish unscrewing the nut holding the upper suspension strut support bearing. Remove the upper support bearing. Now you can lower the jack and remove the shock absorber. In order to change the shock absorber, you must now separate it from the spring. You can find in the description the tool we use in the video, which we think is most adapted to the operation. Careful, pay attention as you compress the spring. This is not without risk and should be undertaken, paying very careful attention. Install the shock absorber on the tool, then tighten the mobile flange against the spring, controlling its position carefully. Check that they are properly held by the locking studs, then slowly compress the spring using the socket wrench and the appropriate socket. Once the shock absorber is free in the spring, you can use a 21mm offset wrench and a 7mm Allen key to unscrew the suspension strut support bearing. In the most extreme cases, you have to use an impact wrench. You can also use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. Then remove the suspension strut support bearing assembly. Remove the shock absorber from the spring. Then remove the strut bearing cup.
Okay, guys, if we can share this video with you and help you save a lot of money, is also thanks to our partner, Mr. Auto. So, if you want to support us and buy the part for this operation, visit their website. Okay, back to work.
You will find the bulk parts and products used in the video on the Mr. Auto site and in the link in the description. Before installing the new shock absorbers, it is necessary to prime them by pressing the shock absorber rod vertically so that the gas and hydraulic fluid are separated. Place the stop in the sleeve. Then install the strut bearing cup. Position the assembly on the shock absorber rod. Position everything in the spring. Pay careful attention to place the bottom of the spring so that it supports shock absorber flange. Then install the upper shock absorber support, the shock absorber mount, and finish by screwing the nut of the shock absorber mount. Tightly fix it in place using a 21mm offset wrench while holding the stem with a Torx T30 key. Unscrew the spring compression tool, paying attention to the position of the spring on the lower shock absorber support. You have now finished preparing the new part. Insert the shock absorber starting from the top part. Replace the upper suspension strut support bearing. Then screw its retaining nut by hand. Use the jack to move the bottom section closer to the shock absorber. Put the shock absorber back into the stub axle. Then put the screws back in place. You can use a small mallet to do this. Set the nuts aside. Then screw the two screws back on until they make contact. Finalize the tightening of the screws with the torque wrench. Reinstall the sway bar link in its position. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Clip the ABS sensor hose back in. Remove the jack. Put the wheels of your vehicle back on and lower it to the ground. Screw the upper support bearing retaining nut back on until it makes contact. Finish tightening the suspension strut support, bearing nut with the vehicle on the ground, using a torque wrench. Put the windscreen bay back in place. Replace the seal. Reassemble the windscreen wiper arms without exaggerating when tightening them in place. Operation completed.
Hi, it's Theo from UseTool. I hope this video has helped you a lot in your car maintenance. We would be super grateful if you could spread the word so that we can produce even more tutorials. Simply give us a like, a comment, and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us boost the channel and help the whole community. Thanks a lot and have a great one.